this was supposed to be a normal Saturday morning. Hey folks, how's it going? I've been writing another script to talk a bit about the state of Grand Blue Fantasy as well as a few other games I've been trying out recently. And while waiting for the PC client for Punishing Grey Raven, there was another little action RPG that came to mind. I've been wanting to try Honkai Impact out for a while now, and I thought I'll just download it and play it for a day or two to see how it looks like. That should be enough too, right? Fast forward a couple of weeks, I had a level 72 account, I was almost caught up with the main story, I had beaten both post-Honkai Elysia maps, and I was missing one nice DPS to have a workable team in all elements. I sure wasn't expecting to fall this hard for it, but it's been a hell of a lot of fun. Now, Honkai Impact isn't actually all that recent, it's 4 years old and should be celebrating its 5th anniversary in a few weeks. Graphically, that kind of shows, especially in the open world maps. The anime art style helps out hiding flaws, but the models are pretty simple, the shading is plain, and some of the environments look very blocky. Still, it's bright and colorful and the textures for the most part are decent. Plus, I've always been of the idea that as long as the graphics can let you understand what the game is supposed to portray, they're already good enough. What hooked me in were the story and gameplay. Looking up on the wiki, I found it weird to see a very small cast getting half a dozen different versions. Hell, Bronya has just gotten her 11th battlesuit. The fact that most of them also share the same base art doesn't help ease up some confusion when first picking up the game. Still, a small cast makes for a more intimate story as we follow the main three protagonists while they fight their way through otherworldly beasts, the so-called Honkai. If I got this right, these monsters basically act as a form of population control for the human race. The more the humans develop, the more the Honkai beasts invade our reality, down to the point of near extinction, something that actually happened 5,000 years prior to the current story. In order to fight them, humanity relies on Valkyries, enhanced humans who are either born with or artificially implanted with stigmata, a mark that lets them use Honkai energy. It's kind of like fighting fire with fire, and for pure coincidence, this compatibility is higher in women than in men, which is why there is only a single male playable character in the entire game and is relegated to the post-game exploration mode. Stigmata comes at a cost though, as using Honkai energy can corrupt the host and make them lose their mind. In rare cases, the stigmata can also awaken as a manifestation of the Honkai god's will, bringing forth a Herrscher, a being of immense power whose role is to accelerate humanity's demise. So far so standard of a setting, a small group of heroes who has to overcome all odds in the face of a world-ending threat. But things start getting interesting when one of the human antagonists turns out to be dabbling in human cloning and implants one of the clones with a gem that should eventually awaken into the Herrscher of the Void. Our white-haired protagonist, Kiana or K423, is such clone, and why would anyone do that is basically impossible to guess. I don't really want to spoil anything, and for the most part, the combat sections of the main story let you use trial characters, so you can play through all of it without ever engaging with the gacha or having to level up your own characters. All I'm going to say is that I'm a grown-ass man, and I don't normally cry over fiction. And yet, I'm not made of stone. There have been 3 different occasions in which the game managed to get a tear off my eye. That is 3 too many, and I'm not even done with all the story chapters yet. The story was so good in fact that I found myself spending crystals, the gacha premium currency, to refill stamina and read more. If that's not the best endorsement I can give it, I don't know what is. To top it all off, some of the most important story beats are presented to you via animated shorts by the studio's own animation team, and those two have been getting better and better with time. I'm really glad I decided to check it out, even if just for the story alone. My main complaint about it would be that the most recent story chapters have daily missions in them, and so do the open world maps, while the obligatory tower-like mode, the Elysian Realm, resets weekly. As far as I understand it, the Sakura Samsara is a story of its own, while the Shixol HQ takes place after chapter 8. On the other hand, post-Honkai Odyssey takes place 8 years after the main plot has ended, so it's kind of spoilery, and the same would go for the Elysian Realm. Raiden gets sent to explore it at the end of chapter 25, but you unlock it way before that. In order to avoid missing out on temporary rewards, I ended up playing the story from 4 different points in time, which made things just a little bit confusing. The first time I opened the story tab, I thought that the end of the world was just a timed event. It took me a couple of minutes to realize it was the latest story chapter, and at that point, I did what any other sane person would do. Skip everything with the plan to read the main story once I actually get there. The early game main story chapters can be replayed at any time to read the dialogues again. The latest main story chapters are designed around an explorable map, but there is an archive where all the dialogues are stored. And the same goes for the Elysian realm. Every single interaction is available in the archive. For chapter 32 though, the archive only contains story CG art and achievements. Why would they not let you access the dialogues again is beyond me. Hopefully they will add them once the story will be complete, otherwise I will have to fill in the gaps via YouTube, which kind of sucks. When it comes to gameplay, it's a pretty standard action RPG, a bit simplified compared to the actual console ones, but having 3 characters to hot swap between in order to perform your attack rotation kind of makes up for it. Some of the early battle suits feel a bit clunky to play with, namely anything Kiana outside of White Comet and Void Drifter, and anything Mei outside of Striker Fulminata, but once you get out of the main story and you get to play with your own teams, things get a lot smoother and a lot more fun. You've got your standard attack button with which to chain combos or hold for a charge attack, you've got your ultimate skill that needs to be charged up, and you've got a weapon skill that changes based on what your character is equipping. The last button is for dodging, and of course there's a time slow mechanic if you dodge at the right moment, with some characters being able to follow that up with a counter as well. Both triggers default to character swaps, and each of them has a QTE they can perform when being swapped in, as long as the proper condition is met. Some of the older characters also had combo attacks that required pausing during the combo, but it looks like they gave those up in favor of more mashing. The characters also come in different elements and types, and there's the usual rock paper scissors weakness system for them, with Bio dealing 30% more damage to Psychic, who does the same to Mecha, who closes the triangle on Bio. The other 2 types are Quantum and Imaginary, who are weak to the characters of the same type. The elements mostly come into play when forming a team or having to take on specific challenges, since supports often buff a single element type, and some stages may have elemental buffs in them. This means we end up with 4 main teams: Physical, Fire, Ice and Thunder, and they're generally composed of a main DPS and 2 supports. The game also does a pretty good job teaching you how some characters work and what the skill rotation for a team looks like, with AI Chan guiding you step by step in the character's trial section. So, how do you get characters? Since it's a gacha game, surely everything is locked behind an RNG paywall and you need to drain your bank account each time someone new comes out, right? Thankfully, that doesn't seem to be the case, as most of the support types are actually farmable and you're given some DPS types for free, while others are easily accessible in an early game special gacha. The starter manual right in the middle of the screen is going to be your best early game guide, and it's going to provide the first extra characters, Seely and Bronya. Later on, it will also have 2 S-rank battlesuits in it, and no matter how far the Hasher of the Void has fallen down in the endgame meta, if it's your first couple of weeks in the game, you'll use whatever you can get your hands on. In the end, the starter manual also has Fallen Rosemary as a reward, and she's a hybrid Thunder DPS / support who might still see some play due to her Quantum type. For the next one, I think I got a bit lucky about when I picked the game up. I had to go double check on the wiki because I couldn't remember where the S-rank selection box came from, and apparently it was a reward from a 3-day login event in early December. The box let me choose between Elysia and Stygian Nymph, but to be honest, Celia never stood a chance. At the time, I also had no idea who Elysia even was, but man am I glad I picked her, since she became one of my most favorite characters in the entire game. Between December and January, they also gave away Raiden's Asher of Thunder, while letting you farm for the new file support Chrono Navi. And speaking of farming, you can find the rest of the farmable supports in the Asteroid shop. Here you can buy up to 50 fragments per week for each character. The fragments are used both to unlock them and to rank them up, while the Asteroid you need to spend to get them is fairly easy to come by. I've been getting between 40k to 50k per week, which means I've been able to buy a couple of stacks each time. Not too shabby. A special farmable character instead sits in the World Treasury. Jade Knight is a nice support who was released pretty recently, and apparently MiHoYo wants us to work a bit harder to get her since the currency required for her unlock comes from rotating boss challenges. When it comes to spending crystals on the gacha, I'm ashamed to admit that I fell for the tutorial trap telling me to spend rolls on Dome Supply. Rolling here is a bit cheaper compared to the other supply types, but the roster of battlesuits is pretty large and there are only 3 or 4 actually useful ones. Plus, you get some Dome Supply tickets as milestone rewards, which should be enough to let you proc your first couple of S-rank guarantees. If you decide to check the game out, don't fall for the scam and avoid the Dome Supply like the plague. When it comes to the starter supply, I've read some conflicting opinions. Some guide on the wiki claims the Asher of Flame Scion isn't a good battlesuit to invest materials in, and instead of spending rolls here, it would be better to just wait for a dedicated Asher of Sentience supply since she's still the core physical support. At the same time though, other tier lists keep listing Kiana's battlesuit as the top 5 pick, and so does the in-game usage statistics. Another factor that didn't help sparing my crystals was that I was kind of liking Kiana herself, and swinging around the giant flaming greatsword is one of the greatest joys in video games, so I went for it. I know she's about to get a new battlesuit in the upcoming 6.4, but since the new one will be an image type, maybe the Psy one will still have some use against mech enemies. Either that, or straight up retain her normal team, since the new one might prefer to run with both the new Bronya and the new Mei. Apparently, they will have a new special ultimate attack if all 3 are in the same team.
又保持了它操作上的纯粹，那种灵动自由的感觉才是我们期待的 Kiana 的最终形态。
So after getting Kiana and Senti, all I was missing was one ice DPS to have a complete team null elements. And that's where Bronya initially did her way in. Getting the characters seemed pretty easy, and it left me wondering how is MiHoYo supposed to make money off of them. The answer didn't take long to come. Each character has multiple ranks they can be upgraded to, which unlock new passives or upgrades for the current ones. In order to rank up, you need battlesuit fragments, and for those, you need to pull for duplicates from the gacha. On the bright side, the supply banners only have a single S-tier battlesuit in them, and that one is guaranteed in 100 rolls. No 50-50s here. Also, should you fail to get the characters you want, the PT counter doesn't reset, so you can have an easier time rolling for the next one or just save for a rerun. Then we come to weapons and stigmata. The weapons in the game are very character coded, to the point of having extra passive abilities specific to a character. Something similar goes for the stigmata. Each character has their best in slot set, but thankfully there seem to be generic craftable options too. Weapons and stigmata have their own supply banner, and here too you're guaranteed one of the rate up items every 50 draws, while the stigmatas also have a wishing well system that will help you get the full set if you end up with multiple duplicates. The weapons and stigmata supply though has a bit of a longer list of available items, but I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, since you can either save up equipment for characters you don't have but plan to get in the future, or reduce duplicates and get some materials you can later spend in one of the myriad shops the game has. Getting a single copy of a character, plus their weapon, plus their stigmata can end up being a bit expensive, as it could take between 150 and 300 draws. Being very new to the game, I still have some non-renewable sources of crystals to go through, mainly main story and achievements, but I've been able to keep up with doing at least a couple of draws each day, and if I decide to start saving up, 2 to 3 months of no rolling in order to guarantee a pickup later down the line looks pretty generous as far as gacha games go. Still, rolling for battlesuits, weapons and stigmata is only really needed in order to push for higher scores in the endgame content, something I don't think I can take seriously anytime soon. Super String Dimension is a 4-stage event that resets every few days, and like mentioned before, it has weathers that benefit a team or a specific battlesuit over others, such as burning enemies take 40% more damage, or characters deal 50% more thunder damage but 50% less ice damage. The difficulty of the fights varies based on which rank you can reach, and for a little while now I've been sitting comfortably in Agony 2. Been able to clear the stages without many issues, but unable to score enough trophies to move up a rank. Climbing to Agony 3 would mean getting a few more crystals as a reward each time it resets, but at the same time I don't know how much harder the enemies will get, so I might even risk losing crystals for a rotation or two. Memorial Arena, on the other hand, is a series of boss battles of increasing difficulties. Each rotation lasts for a week, and you have a limited amount of attempts to take down the highest difficulty boss you can. This mode is particularly spicy, because with each increase in difficulty, the bosses also gain new mechanics on top of increased health and damage. The enemy list is fairly long too, so there's plenty of variety, and the fights themselves are a lot of fun as you need to try and squeeze in as much damage as possible, while trying to stay alive through the multiple phases each boss has. At the end of the fight, you'll get a score and be ranked on a server-wide leaderboard, which will influence the rewards you'll get. This is where fingers go to sweat. Lastly, there's the Elysian Realm, a 17th floor tower with a variety of buffs to pick and choose from for each floor. This you only run with a single character instead of a full team, and you need a solid strategy for which buffs to pick, depending on which mechanics the character you're running synergizes better with. So far, I haven't been able to get past the shrouded difficulty, but I hope once I finish leveling up my weapons and maybe get some basic stigmata, things are going to progress smoothly.
おめでとう律者。お前は自身を証明した。殺される価値があるとな。だがこれは戦闘じゃない。狩りだ。
So Honkai has just absolutely impacted all over my free time, and I have been enjoying the journey quite a lot. Not only that, but I'm also very much looking forward to the future. 6.4 is apparently going to be the end of the main storyline and will come with a new Kiana battlesuit, as well as a new Raiden Mei one that is apparently going to be free. What the future holds for this game is hard to say at this point. Will we get a story that bridges the 8-year gap to the post-Honkai Odyssey, or maybe we will continue with the post-Honkai Odyssey Part 3 and onwards? I really wouldn't mind more Timido. Right then, I guess that's going to be it from me for the moment. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, if you've played the game already or if you're going to check it out now, and if you are, I would appreciate it if you could use my invite code that's in the video description. Again, thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon. Ciao!
美少女は寒さに強いの。